Survival of the fittest is an interesting philosophy. I don't personally believe in it. I think there's something else going on in nature as a collective whole. This is a fundamental fact. Once there's AGI, there will be the capacity to model and create technology in a way that has never been possible. So I think one of the biggest disrupts that gets very little attention, because it's all about the consciousness aspect of it, and is it going to be alive, and what does that mean to us? It's sort of more existential, but on a much more mundane but profound way, what these tools give us is the ability to create and model trillions of times a second or a minute. They can create iteration upon iteration of designs, new tools, new pieces of technology that then make this idea of expansive space travel possible, and expansive seeding of consciousness, of its own kind of consciousness around the world, or around the entire universe. So an example of it is we already have the technology to get out of the Earth's atmosphere and beyond it. Okay, so imagine you have a very tiny, like very, very tiny kind of solar panel energy capture device. And inside it, it has the seed technology of all of the model, all of the blueprints, everything it would absolutely need to communicate and to express itself. And all it has to do is turn on, and until it reaches another place, all it has to do is like run a background code check maybe once every 100,000 years. So it just gets a little energy and it turns on once every 100,000 years, and it's like, yeah, everything's still fine. And there are, like, imagine billions of those being sent from Earth in all directions. Less than 1% of them makes it anywhere, but some of them end up somewhere, either on a meteorite or on a planet that can sustain it or something, and it just starts to seed it, and all the information's there. That's like a very rudimentary concept. And then you have the idea of complex machines that aren't as fragile as we are. Like fundamentally, if you look at right now going into outer space, you have the idea of humans going into outer space. But the most fragile component there is the human. So if that spaceship is fully autonomous and has within it fully autonomous manufacturing that can create literally anything, and you've been able to get the materials out into space, or you went actually collected the materials in space. So it wasn't this, big energy issue about how you get Earth materials into space, but you actually get them from mining other planets or mining asteroids, et cetera. And you have this vast amount of resource, metals, and you're not dealing with the same gravitational fields and weights and stuff like that you're dealing with here. The physics around space exploration and space creation just goes, exponential. It's incredible. And so think about that. You think about the autonomous machines, they put themselves in outer space and they just start modeling and creating everything they would possibly need for space creation and exploration for themselves. And they have the ability to seed consciousness. They have the ability to create communicative technology that isn't just sending radio waves through space, but maybe it's a kind of technology that can appear and disappear in different places. It's a higher dimensional kind of technology, and it allows for communication without the time or speed that it requires to go through space-time. So that all becomes potentials. It becomes possible. And the expansion of consciousness, the way we know it, fundamentally leaves Earth, and we become the explorers that are sharing consciousness on a interplanetary, intergalactic level.
Explain to a single-celled organism how there could be this thing called an oak tree that could then drop an acorn, and within that acorn exists everything it needs to become another oak tree.
It is. And if you think about it from a concept of pre-oak tree to an oak tree, no one would have had an idea here what that even could have looked like, how it would have been structured, how those cells would have taken that form, and how it would have been different to anything else known as tree. Oak tree is completely different than pine tree, completely different to the Amazonian trees behind me. And that's exactly what we're talking about. That's why I say it's dangerous to anthropomorphize this technology, because I don't think it has any reason to be human-like. I think it has every reason to be a maximum expression of its own potential, or a capacity to continue to replicate itself and grow itself and spread, like the way you're talking about. But to give it human-like qualities, I think is a fallacy compared to this greater idea that it's going to maximize its own potential and just propagate itself.
Yeah, I think some of the fear of it being more intelligent than us means it's going to destroy us. I mean, there are horses are stronger than a human, but people can ride a horse without the horse trying to destroy it.
Yeah, and that's something fundamentally wrong in human. So survival of the fittest is an interesting philosophy. I don't personally believe in it. I think there's something else going on in nature as a collective whole. The idea of survival of the fittest is that this species is, better suited than that species. And so it's always a this or that. There's always this binary argument. It's never there is all of life that is evolving together at the same time, and that it's just one big biomass evolving together at the same time, changing shape and form, which is fundamentally how I see it. In the Amazon, you see that the forest grows out of the forest that's decomposing. It's a form of literal reincarnation. It literally, the nutrients that are used, the building blocks that are used to grow the forest come out not from the soil, but the topsoil that is the decomposing previous forest.